Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to Looplearnings. This is the next video in the series. We are making POS management system, and in this video, we are going to focus on the billing aspect of it. So, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. And in case if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do hit the bell icon so you get notification whenever I upload a new video. So, if you have not seen previous video, I will strongly suggest that you do watch all the videos in this series, and you'll get to know what we are trying to build here. So as I said, we are going to focus on the billing aspect of it. Now I know this is not really finished form, but at least I want to just complete this cycle. So what we have done until now, we have refined the order form, we have added the order lines, and we have built the mechanism of inventory, and which is great. So this is why I recommend that you do watch the previous videos. Now I want to create a button here, and I want to create invoice for this particular order, or any order for the matter of fact. Now, to not just simply placing a button, but I would like to actually go in the table, and I would like to see the details of what we are going to build. So what I've done is I have created another table called invoice T. So basically, these are the fields of the invoice table. So if you have been following along, I would suggest that you create the table, and you can pause the video here. You can actually create the table with the same fields. Now, if you want to see the data type, let me go to the design view. So right here, you should pause here, and you should open your laptop, access Microsoft Access, and create this table. You can pause and create this table with these, basically the field data types, and these are the fields. Okay. Now now I'm assuming that you have created, so let's continue. Now what we are going to do is we are going to actually pass on the information from the order to this invoice table, so we can create the invoice, but this should have a user interface as well. Now this is why I'm going to build a form for the user interface, and then we will link up to the PS form. So let's first create a form. So we can copy one of the form, let's say, okay, not this one. All right, we'll take this form and we'll copy and paste, so we can keep the same design aesthetics and everything. And we'll give a name called invoice F. Okay. And then I'm going to right click on this form, because we have to change everything basically. And we'll remove these, and we'll go to the save button behind the code, and we're going to remove this code. All right. So entirety of it. There you go. Okay. Now I'm going to link this form to the table, which is invoices table, and the invoice table will actually hold the invoice related information. All right, so there we go. Invoice, invt, that's the name of the table. Now we're going to fetch the fields from this table. Okay, we're going to drag and drop. We'll go slowly one by one. I know this is a little bit of tedious work. Let's select multiple fields and drag them, drop in here. Select all, right click, layout, stack them up. We'll go to the home. We'll change the color to full black, and we'll change from Aptos to Calibri. That's the font we have been using. We'll go to the arrange. We'll narrow the margin, and we'll go back to form design, property sheet, format, and we'll change the height probably to 0.7. Yeah, that's fine. And we're going to align it a little bit, and we have to do a little bit of housekeeping stuff. We'll increase the width, and invoice, we can say invoice number, perhaps we can say full number, all right, like that. And the invoice date, okay, and sale order ID. So you can see this invoice is linked to which sales order. So if there is a need of audit, or you want to see and verify by yourself, you can actually do that. This is the collected amount, so net amount, and how much is collected actually, and what's the balance amount. If there is any balance, we'll keep a record of that as well. And there you go. Now I think we'll select again. We'll change the height to 0.7, and we will change the top margin to 0.05, maybe 1. Nah, that's gone. 0.09. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's increase the width. Let's select all, make them bold, and we'll put them in the center. And then we are going to change the color of some of the fields. So invoice number, invoice date, status, balance, what else? Order amount, sale ID. I think these should remain non-editable fields. We don't want to make them editable field. Although if you want to do that, if a business requires, sure. But in this case, I'm going to make them non-editable fields. And then what I'm going to do is discount definitely will allow to make the edits, and the net amount also I think not require to make it editable. All right. So discount and collect it. That's it. We'll keep these two. Discount. Let's change the maybe background color to light red because this is discount. Basically, not really good all the time. And the collection, maybe make it the green color. Make it bold. All right. So this is the amount to be collected. So if we'll go to the form view, and this is how the form looks like. Awesome. Now the next thing we're going to do is obviously we need to make this as um, basically we will remove the data source or record source, sorry, and we'll do the VBA coding behind the save button to make it functional as we did for all the other forms. And this is where I recommended that you must watch the videos that are created in the past. Okay. All right. So let's think about it. What we are looking for is we are looking for having a button here that create invoice. Once that button is clicked, the information is taken from this orders table and information is taken to the invoice form. So basically, the order amount is not really coming from the orders form, right? Sorry, I said orders table, it's orders form. So information about the net amount, if you look at, is not really coming from the form. Where it is coming from? It is coming from the sold queue query. In this case, we are looking at the query which does not include the value. It only includes the quantity of the products that we have sold. Okay. So this will definitely not help. So what we need to do, we need to create another query, right? Similar to this, because the source will be same. We need to create another query which will hold the total amount for each sales order, right? Maybe a sales order has multiple line items. We will need the total amount of the line items that are added in the sales order. Hopefully I'm making sense. So let's create a query. Let's copy it. Let's paste. And here we will create a query called, what we are getting from this query, we are getting the total amount. Okay. Sales amount Q. Now, if you want, you don't need to actually create a separate query. What you can do is you can use the dsum function and you can sum up the total amount from the sales orders. So for example, if I'll come here, where is the uh, sales table, right? And then sales item table. So basically, what you can do, you can use dsum function in the VBA to fetch the accumulated total price of each sales order. Now you can use that approach, or you can create a standalone query the way I did it. So I like queries because the queries will help us um, to present this information in different reports and formats. We can use the same query to do that. With that other approach, which you can do VBA dsum function, that you can use only for this one particular form. So I like to create query. We can use that query for other purposes as well. Now what I'm looking for here, I'm looking for not the product ID or quantity. Okay. What I'm looking for is the sale ID and the total price. That's it. Now, this sales order can have 5 lines, and what I'm looking for is the accumulated. If I will run this query now, you will not see the accumulated. You can see the sales order one, $18, sale order one, another record, $34. I want to accumulate this, right? So that's the whole idea. The whole idea is that one sale order have the one total amount. That's it. So we'll go back to design view. We'll go to the query design, and totals is already on. So what we are going to do is we are going to choose sum and save it. I'll go to the datasheet view, and you can see that the amount is accumulated. Now the field name is not really good, so let's modify that so we can refer to this. All right, so we can say total net sale. Okay, or no, sorry, total sale. All right, net sale would be after the discount. Oh no, no, not, we are not looking for this. All right, let me correct this. So we'll say total sale. Okay, and now if we'll go to the query, save it, and now we can have a field which we can refer to, and then we can populate this information onto this form right here in the order amount. Okay, that's the whole idea. Now, how do we do that? Let's go to the VBA. Now, let's think of the logic. So we fetch the sale order ID from this form. Okay, sale ID. Then we fetch the invoice date would be current date. Sales order ID would be from the POS form. The order amount will be from this query. Discount is by default 0. If you give the discount, the information changes automatically, and whatever amount you collect, accordingly, the balance will be updated as well. Okay, so we are going to have a button which will be used as update. Okay, because we are not going to create separately, we are going to create right from here the new invoice. So we'll have update button, but we'll keep the other button. We can use that button for some other purposes. Okay, so let's go to first event tab, and we'll go to the on click event dot dot dot, and here we are in the uh, VBA editor. Now we are going to write a code which will actually transfer the information from this form to this table. Why we need to do that? We have already spoken about it, because this form is not a bound form. So that's why we use record sets to basically transfer the information. Now, if you may ask why I'm using unbound form, well, there are many reasons. I have explained it many times. So let's get right into the right in the code. So right into the form, so you know what we are building. Okay, so let's go back to VB editor and let's write the code. So we'll start with the declaring variable. So we'll say dim rsinv update as a record set, and then we'll say set rsinv update equal current db dot open record set parenthesis open parenthesis close double quote, and we will say invt. That's the record set, that's the table we are referring to, right? And then we will type in the type, and that would be db open diner set. Okay, all right. And after that, we are going to build some logics. And the first logic I want to build is that the system should never allow anyone to update anything if the invoice number is missing. I mean, that's the basic information we require. Okay, so invoice number must be there. So that's why we will first check that. Okay, so we'll say if nz me dot invoice number equal double quote, then do cmd dot beep message box, this action cannot be performed. Okay, comma, we be critical, comma, information. There's one more logic, and that logic, if the invoice status is invoiced or closed or completed, whatever status you want to choose to be the final status of the invoice, if that's the case, then we should not never allow to be any updates to be made. Okay, so we'll say else if me dot status equal invoiced. All right, then what should be done? Do cmd dot beep message box, and this would be um, this section cannot be performed as the status is invoiced. Simple as that. Comma, and we'll say will be critical, another comma, and this would be information. All right, so once that is done, then we can proceed. And the first thing we are going to do is we are going to search or look for the invoice number mentioned here in the database table, which is invoice number here. Okay, so let's write that code. So first thing we're going to do is we'll say rsinv update dot find first. And what are we finding? Well, we are finding invoice number equal ampersand me dot invoice number. Okay. And then we will say, okay, once we found that, now we are going to write the code. And the code here is going to be a little bit of interesting. So please watch. And the reason I say that is because some of the information we are going to pass to the database in this table, which you're looking at right now. So it will come from the form right here, and then it will be stored here in the database table. However, not all the information we are going to pass. And the reason is because we have net amount as a calculated field, and balance is also calculated field. So basically, we don't need to pass the information. However, we are going to use the function which will demonstrate to the user that the calculation is happening. So that will be a separate area that I will tackle behind the code behind these two fields. Okay, but for now we will stick to what we need to transfer. Okay, so what is that we are going to transfer? Once we found the invoice number, we can say rsinv update dot edit. Okay, and then we'll say rsinv update dot update. Okay, and then once we have opened the record set, then we can actually proceed, and we can say, okay, now the table is open. Now I want you to pass on the information. Which information we will pass? Well, we will pass the order amount, discount, and net amount. Okay, remember a this is an unborn form, so that's why we have to do this. Okay, so please follow what I'm doing so you would know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so we'll say, okay, so we'll start with the order amount. Okay, and we'll say me dot equal to me dot order amount, and then we'll say discount. Okay, so copy paste that, not that. Not that, hang on a second, what is happening? Okay, let's copy this, paste, 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 and paste. I think we'll add or remove depending on the columns or the fields that we're updating. Okay, so the next one is discount, so that we will update. Net amount, now remember, as I said, we don't need to actually transfer the information from the form to the table because this is calculated. However, we need to update this information onto the form itself. Okay, so that we don't need to tackle here. So we'll focus on what we need to tackle here. So, and that is collected. So collected is also the field, and balance, again we will not handle the balance. We will simply say status, and first of all, status would be me dot status. Oops, me dot status. And what would be me dot status? We haven't defined yet, right? So we'll say me dot status equal then whatever the status would be. But at this stage, we don't have defined status of the invoice, because the invoice might be at new status, invoice might be at partially collected or fully collected. That we will tackle right here onto the form with the other area where we're going to write the code. For now, we will just leave it there, status equal status, that's it. And once this is updated, we'll say dot close and set, and rsine we update equal nothing. Once that is done, we'll say do cmd dot beep, and we'll say message box, and the message would be the update to the invoice are made or is made, whatever, comma vb information, comma information. Okay, so one aspect of it we are done. What is next? Well, remember, as I said, there are few fields that will be updated based on the information updated into these two fields, so discount and the collected amount. If this information is updated, we will update the relevant information in the relevant fields. So if the discount is updated, meaning someone has changed, then the net amount will be updated, right? So net amount is what? Net amount is order amount minus discount. That is net amount. Okay, so that should be here, that should be published here. Now we are not going to transfer the information to the form. However, what we are going to do is we are just changing this information and then updating whatever the information will be updated. Okay, so let's write the code with this discount event field. After update event dot 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 code builder, and we will write, and I will copy this line of code so I don't have to do it again or write it again. So since we will copy this, it will be easier to define. So if the status is invoice, then it will not allow, else, and if. Okay, if the status is invoice, then nothing will be happening. But if the status is not invoice, then what we are going to do? Well, then in that case, we are going to discount. So we'll say me dot uh, net amount equal me dot order amount minus me dot discount. Okay, so what this will do, this will give us the net amount. It will be presented onto the user interface. Remember, at the moment nothing is being transferred to the database. However, if we want this update to be transferred to the database, of course we would want that, right? So if this discount is changed, we want the database to be updated with the same discount as well. So to do that, we have to write the save or update code again? No, actually not. We can simply call this function that we have written before. Okay, so we'll say call, and there you go. That's it. This is what we need to do. Okay, and we're going to repeat the same with the collected amount. Now collected amount is little bit complicated, not really complicated, but little bit more code we have to write, or logic we have to write. Consider, so what is the logic? If the collected amount is greater than 0, or the first one would be if invoiced, then of course we are not going to do anything. If collected amount is greater than 0, less than net amount, or if the balance amount is null or is 0, then we will proceed and we will say amount is collected. Otherwise, the amount will be partially collected. Okay, so I don't know how much you are understanding, to be honest, but let's write the code, so hopefully you will understand. So after update event dot 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 code builder, and again I'm going to copy this code so I don't have to write it all over again. And then we'll say end if. Okay, so if it is invoiced, then of course we are not going to do anything. If it is not invoiced, then of course we have to look at. So then we will look at balance amount, simply put. And if the balance amount is null or 0, then we will change the status. Else, or it's the other way around. If the balance amount is greater than 0, then we will uh, throw an error. We'll say, hey, this is, it's not an error actually, it's a yes or no, or we'll simply change the status accordingly. So you can take the approach, whatever approach you would like to take. So we'll say if me dot balance greater than 0, then the status will be status equal partially collected. Okay, and we will do the update as well. So remember, we will call this update button. That's it. Else, um, else if me dot status equals 0, then me dot status, look what I'm doing. Okay, it's not status, by the way. If balance is greater than 0, okay, so it should not be status here. If me dot balance equals 0, then me dot status would be collected. Okay, and then again we will call the update button, and that's about it. And perhaps we'll say 2cmd.beep, so it's a response to the user. 2cm 2cmd dot beep. Okay, so that's done. All right, so that's done. Now the last puzzle piece is left is the, we will say closed. Okay, close button, so meaning invoice has to be closed. someone has to look at the amount collected versus amount balance, sorry, versus the net amount. Then somebody have to look at the accounts, and somebody have to say, yeah, I've looked at it and it is fine, so it has to be closed. Okay, so we can say close the invoice. Okay, so what is the status we have written here? Invoiced. Okay, now what I would like to do is I would like to have this as a closed invoice. So someone in the accounts looking at it and they can close it. So we'll go back, come here, and we'll say if it is null, of course, we'll take all of that. Thank you. And so we don't have to write it again. So if me dot status is equal to closed, yeah, closed mean closed invoice, everything is done, then still this action will not be performed. Else and if. So in the else statement, what we are going to do is we are basically going to write a code which will mark the status as closed. So we'll say me dot status equal closed. And then we will call the update action as well. All right, so and then do cmd.beep message box. The invoice has been closed. Great. Whatever you want to call it in your business, it's your choice. It's not critical, by the way. It will be VB information and information. All right, so that's about it. Now remember, we have added this closed at the moment. We have to write this logic for the other buttons or other areas where we have coded. So right here as well, if it is invoiced or closed, then throw an error. Right here also. There you go. And here as well. Okay. All right. So this is done, but something is missing here. Now I've just realized. So it's not just we are looking at balance. We have to populate the information onto this field as well. So we'll say me dot net, sorry, me dot net amount, me dot order amount minus net amount, me dot order, oops, me dot order amount minus me dot net amount. Okay, and this will be stored where? Me dot, come on, what is happening? Me dot net amount equals me dot order amount minus discount. Okay, so net amount equals order amount minus discount. Simple. But I was getting confused for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's I need to hurry. It's 6:10 already. Okay. Then we have the balance. So with the collected, we need to update the balance. Okay. So I've just realized something is missing in this code particularly. And what is that missing? Well, yes, this code is correct, but we need addition in that code. What is the addition? The addition is the balance amount is not going to be populated here on this field to the user interface. Yes, it will be updated in the invoice table, but not on the form. So user might think that discount is not applied or the collected amount, the balance amount is not updated as compared to the collected amount. So that may happen. So for user to know that, yes, I'm changing the amount here, the balance is getting updated, we need to demonstrate that. So what is the code? The code would be me dot balance. Okay, so right here, me dot balance equal, and we'll say me dot net amount plus, sorry, me dot net amount minus me dot collected. Okay, this is what we're doing, right? So net amount supposed to be collected, how much we have collected, what's the balance? That's what we are going to look at. And this is not going to be only for this condition. Okay, this is going to be condition for all, because this will eventually be updated. Okay, so now I think the code is completed. Okay, so we have done the code, necessary code we have written behind these two buttons and behind these two fields. Now the problem is I can't test it right now because there is nothing available in terms of data. So what does that mean? Well, that means I have to demonstrate the next steps in the next video. But I hope that you have learned in this video something. I hope that you have consumed the information, you will practice it. I hope this will be useful. So thank you very much if you're still watching. I really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do hit the bell icon so you get a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.